Let's go Dolphins! Something big is happening behind the scenes, and you're not going to believe what I've uncovered. There's a storm brewing in Miami, one that could completely change the course of our 2025 season. I'm not just talking about locker room drama or typical off-season buzz. No, this goes deeper. It involves one of the biggest stars on this roster, a fractured relationship that's gotten worse by the day, and a front office that seems more lost than ever. There's a serious divide forming inside the Dolphins organization, and it's all coming to a head right now. The name at the center of it all? Jalen Ramsey. But here's the kicker. While some think it's just smoke, what's actually happening behind closed doors could determine whether we're contenders or watching the playoffs from the couch. And the decisions being made right now, they're not just about Ramsey. They're about McDaniel. They're about Greer. They're about the identity of this franchise. I've got all the details, including what Tyreek Hill just said that no one's talking about, the secret locations where Ramsey's been spotted, and the shocking truth about which teams are seriously in the mix to land him. And trust me, one of them will absolutely surprise you. So before I tell you everything, smash that like button if you've ever screamed at your TV during a Dolphins game. And if you've been riding with this team for over 20 years, comment Go Dolphins. Meu coração sangra aqua y laranja. Now buckle up, because what I'm about to reveal might just be the biggest Dolphins story of the entire offseason. Let's not dance around it. Tyreek Hill stirred the pot during Fanatics Fest in New York, where the NFL's elite gathered for a promotional event. When asked about Ramsey, Hill didn't hold back. I'm going to hang out with Ramsey next week. I'm going to get him back. Full court press. I don't care what they say, he declared. That's not just friendly banter. That's a player taking it upon himself to fix what the front office clearly has not. But let's be honest, as much as we appreciate Tyreek's leadership and heart, anything he says comes with a grain of salt. His history of trolling fans and media makes it tough to take these words at face value. Still, that quote has reignited the debate. Should the Dolphins even consider bringing Ramsey back? Let's talk facts. Jalen Ramsey was the best cornerback on this roster last season, period. And if he's on the field this year, there's no question he would again be the top guy in Miami's secondary, a unit that is looking dangerously thin heading into training camp. Yet, despite his undeniable talent, the reports paint a troubled picture. Multiple players were consistently late to meetings last season, resulting in fines, and all signs point to Ramsey being one of the culprits. If that's true, it's no surprise the relationship between him and McDaniel appears irreparably damaged. And here's where it gets uncomfortable. Even though Ramsey brings elite talent, if his presence disrupts the culture McDaniel is trying to build, it may be time to move on, for real this time. But man, the timing couldn't be worse. The Dolphins need a top-tier corner, and outside of Kader Kohou, who, by the way, is quietly one of the top nickel corners in the league, the rest of the depth chart is, frankly, uninspiring. Cam Smith has been a bust. Storm Duck, Jason Marshall Jr., Ethan Bonner, none have proven they're ready to contribute at a playoff level. Artie Burns, his best days are well behind him. So what does this mean? It means the front office is going to have to bring in another veteran. Maybe it's Stephon Gilmore. Maybe it's Asante Samuel Jr. or Rasul Douglas. But here's the truth. None of them provide the same upside Ramsey does when he's locked in. If, and that's a big if, the coaching staff and front office could swallow their pride and mend this relationship, bringing Ramsey back would be a game-changing move. Imagine pairing a healthy Ramsey with an already dangerous front seven. Combine that with an improved defensive line and a healthy Tua Tagovailoa, and now you've got something that smells a lot like a playoff team, maybe more. But here's the real twist. Even if the Dolphins wanted Ramsey back, does he even want to return? According to Adam Schefter, Ramsey prefers a trade to a West Coast team. His top targets? The Los Angeles Rams and Chargers, familiar territory and win-now environments. And while the Rams have been the most consistently linked team, don't count out the Chargers or even the Pittsburgh Steelers, who've emerged as a sleeper candidate thanks to some curious off-season sightings. Ramsey has been working out at UCLA, the same facilities being used by some new Steelers vets like DK Metcalf and Aaron Rodgers. Coincidence? Maybe. But fans noticed. Then Ramsey liked a Steelers Instagram post featuring Rodgers, Metcalf, and Darius Slay. Again, that could mean nothing. Social media likes are cheap. But fans, especially Steelers fans, are eating it up. Could this be another chapter in the Miami to Pittsburgh secondary pipeline? We've seen it before with names like Minkah Fitzpatrick and Deshaun Elliott. All this noise puts Chris Greer in a bind. Does he hold firm and risk letting a top talent walk for nothing? Or does he try to salvage Ramsey's value through a trade, preferably before training camp opens in mid-July? That's the timeline everyone's pointing to. Schefter expects a resolution before then. And frankly, so do I. But here's the million-dollar question I want you to answer. Should the Dolphins swallow their pride and bring back Jalen Ramsey if it means a better shot at the Super Bowl? Or is it time to fully move on and clean house in the secondary? The situation is even more layered than it seems on the surface. Let's go deeper into the implications if the Dolphins do in fact decide to move on from Jalen Ramsey before training camp. First, let's call this what it is, an inflection point not just for the player, but for the entire franchise. You have a fractured locker room dynamic, a front office that's under fire, especially with Chris Grier still inexplicably in power, and a fan base that's growing restless. If Ramsey goes, it can't just be a clean-cut transaction. The return needs to be meaningful, and the timing must align with the urgency of the 2025 season. There's been growing buzz around the idea that Miami is preparing for life without Ramsey. The evidence? Not only is the coaching staff quiet on the situation, but there's also an eerie lack of public support from key team officials. That's not normal. When a player of Ramsey's caliber is potentially on the move, you'd expect some sort of controlled messaging, a sign of mediation or effort to preserve value. Instead, the silence is deafening. That tells me one thing. Grier is trying to shop him, and it's more about leverage than loyalty at this point. And here's where it gets strategic. If Ramsey's destination is truly the West Coast, that opens an intriguing market. The Rams are the emotional favorite. He's familiar with McVay. He played some of his best football there, and the team is still a contender with glaring secondary needs. But will the Rams be willing to meet Miami's price? They've been cautious in trades recently, and their draft capital is limited. The Chargers make sense on paper, a team trying to push back into playoff relevance under Harbaugh, with a defense in desperate need of leadership. But the most intriguing fit, especially from a leverage perspective, is Pittsburgh. Why? Because Pittsburgh isn't just lurking, they're building something. We've already seen the Dolphins to Steelers pipeline work with Minkah Fitzpatrick. And now with guys like Deshaun Elliott signing extensions there, Ramsey could be the next name in that migration. There's smoke around this idea, and while some chalk it up to social media fluff, those workout photos at UCLA with Steelers players aren't nothing. This is how back-channel recruiting works in the NFL today. Relationships, optics, timing. All signs are pointing toward a trade scenario that lands Ramsey in a new city before camp begins. But let's consider the fallout. If Miami moves Ramsey and fails to immediately patch up the cornerback depth, it will be a glaring weakness, one that playoff-caliber offenses will expose. You can't head into a season relying solely on developmental players like Cam Smith or UDFAs like Storm Duck to suddenly level up. That's a gamble no serious team makes. Grier, for all his missteps, has to understand that. So whether it's Ramsey staying, a veteran signing, or an unexpected trade haul, the Dolphins need answers, fast. And this is where the risk gets real for McDaniel. This could be a defining moment for him. If he can't manage personalities like Ramsey or build a cohesive locker room culture, his long-term viability as a head coach comes into question. Yes, he's an offensive mastermind. Yes, players like Tua and Tyreek have flourished under him. But the NFL isn't just about play calling. It's about managing egos, keeping stars happy, and creating a system where even the most volatile talents can thrive. If McDaniel loses Ramsey and the defense regresses, his seat could heat up very quickly. Let's not ignore the human element either. Tyreek Hill's public push to bring Ramsey back shows something deeper. Players want to win, and they know Ramsey helps them do that. They're not talking about Grier. They're not hyping up random